Chosen ones, listen carefully and do not rush past this moment. This is not another video, not another voice competing for your attention, and not another message meant to entertain you for a few minutes and then disappear. This is a message from God, delivered to you in perfect divine alignment. You did not arrive here by accident, not by algorithm, not by coincidence, and not because you were bored. Something deeper pulled you here. Something ancient within you recognized a signal it has been waiting for. That quiet recognition you felt as soon as this began is the first sign of your spiritual awakening, and it is not new. It has been stirring inside you for years, even when you did not have language for it. You have always known that your life did not follow a normal path. While others seemed to move forward in predictable steps, your road twisted, paused, broke apart, and restarted in ways that never made sense to anyone watching from the outside. And maybe, for a long time, it did not make sense to you either. But hear this clearly now. Your life did not fail to follow a normal path. Your life followed a different design because it was never meant to be normal. It was meant to be precise. It was meant to be intentional. It was meant to shape you into the chosen one, not someone who fits in, but someone who carries alignment. This is where divine calling begins, not with comfort, but with separation, not with applause, but with questioning. You were marked early for a chosen one calling that required depth, awareness, and inner strength. That is why your path felt heavier. That is why you felt different in rooms where others felt at home. That is why you could never fully commit to a life that looked acceptable but felt empty. This was not rebellion. This was purpose alignment pressing against a world that could not contain it. The unusual path you walked was not evidence of failure or delay. It was evidence of divine design unfolding in layers you could not yet see. There were moments when isolation became your companion, moments when confusion whispered that something was wrong with you, moments when comparison cut deeply as you watched others reach milestones you were told you should have reached by now. And in those moments, you questioned yourself, you questioned your worth, you questioned your timing, but you were never questioning God. You were responding to a message from God that had not fully revealed itself yet. Understand this now. God's message often arrives as disruption before it arrives as clarity. It shakes the surface so the deeper calling can rise. If this is resonating, if something inside you feels seen instead of challenged, pause for a second and acknowledge it. Comment 777 if you feel aligned with this moment, not for the algorithm, but as a quiet agreement between you and what is being revealed right now. Alignment is not loud, but it is undeniable. Your spiritual awakening did not begin today. Today is simply the moment you stopped resisting it. You have always sensed that there was more required of you, more expected from you, more entrusted to you. The divine calling on your life is not about status or recognition. It is about responsibility. It is about carrying light into spaces where light is resisted. That is why the war has always felt real to you, even when others dismissed it as imagination. You are not imagining the resistance. You are not imagining the weight. You are not imagining the urgency. The war is real, and it is not against you. It is around you because of what you carry. Your light has always made systems uncomfortable. Your questions disrupted shallow answers. Your presence challenged environments built on illusion. That is why you were redirected so often. That is why doors closed without explanation. That is why you were forced inward again and again. This was not punishment. This was preparation. Divine design does not rush formation. It allows pressure to carve clarity. And now here you are, at a moment where confusion begins to dissolve and purpose begins to sharpen. What follows after this introduction will not give you a new life. It will give you a new lens. It will reframe your past, your pain, your delays, and your detours through the truth of divine calling. You will begin to see how every interruption served alignment, how every ending protected your assignment, and how every lonely stretch strengthened your authority. You were not overlooked. You were set apart. You were not late. You were restrained until ready. You were not lost. You were being positioned. So hear this again as we circle back to the truth that opened this moment. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you feel. You were called before you understood the call. The pressure you survived did not destroy you because it could not. Your light is necessary, and that is why it was tested. If this touched your soul, if something inside you just said yes without words, comment 111, because you know it now, without doubt and without fear. You were called. Why the chosen one is never given a normal life path. Chosen one, return to the truth we began with and listen without resistance. This is a message from God, not shaped by opinion, not softened for comfort, and not designed to fit inside the expectations of a world built on routine. You are not imagining what you have lived through. You were called, and the evidence of that calling is the very fact that your life refused to follow a normal path. From the beginning, something invisible separated you from predictable structures, not because you were flawed, but because you were marked. A normal life is built for maintenance. It preserves systems, repeats patterns, and rewards conformity. But divine calling is not about maintaining what already exists. It is about transformation, and transformation demands friction. That is why the chosen one is never allowed to settle comfortably inside linear progress. God's message does not prioritize ease, it prioritizes awakening. And awakening cannot occur in environments where nothing is questioned and nothing is challenged. Your spiritual awakening did not begin when life became hard. It began the first time you felt that something about the path presented to you felt incomplete. While others accepted direction without resistance, you felt an inner pause. While others chased approval, you felt a quiet refusal. This was not confusion. This was discernment forming before language caught up. Divine calling often removes social approval early, so the chosen one does not confuse popularity with purpose. The normal path promises safety, but it rarely produces authority. Authority is forged through pressure, contradiction, and internal wrestling. That is why your life introduced uncertainty before stability, questions before answers, and endings before clarity. The unusual path was not punishment, it was spiritual training. Every interruption forced you inward. Every delay sharpened your awareness. Every disappointment stripped away false identity. This is how divine design builds someone who cannot be controlled by surface-level success. Look closely at the patterns. Relationships that ended suddenly, educational paths that collapsed without warning, careers that never stabilized the way they were supposed to, identity phases that dissolved just when you thought you had found your place. Each of these moments felt like rejection at the time, but rejection was never the intent. Redirection was. God's message often removes what would have limited your range before you realize how small it was. The chosen one cannot be allowed to root too deeply in places that are not aligned. If you had been given early comfort, early validation, and early success, you would have built your identity on approval instead of truth. Divine calling protects the assignment by disrupting attachment. That is why stability always felt temporary. That is why nothing external could fully claim you. Your spirit was being trained to stand without leaning, Purpose alignment is not about what you achieve. It is about who you become when achievement is delayed. God prioritizes inner authority over external momentum. Inner authority cannot be borrowed, inherited, or rushed. It must be earned through solitude, observation, and restraint. This is why loneliness became part of your formation, not because you were meant to be alone forever, but because you were meant to hear clearly before being surrounded. Independence was forced on you early because spiritual authority cannot depend on constant reassurance. The chosen one must learn to move without applause, decide without consensus, and stand without reinforcement. This is not arrogance. This is preparation. When your voice carries weight, it must come from alignment, not validation. Divine calling demands that you know who you are before the world tries to name you. The war you have felt is real. It is not imaginary, and it is not exaggerated. Resistance always gathers around light that threatens stagnation. Your discomfort in normal systems was not rebellion, it was incompatibility. Your presence disrupted environments built on compromise. That is why you were pushed out, overlooked, or misunderstood. Light that cannot be dimmed is often removed instead. Hear this clearly now as we circle back to the beginning. This is a message from God. You are not broken. You are being shaped. Your divergence from normality was not accidental. It was strategically timed to awaken discernment, resilience, and spiritual maturity. Everything that failed to hold you was never meant to. Everything that left created space for alignment. Your light is necessary, and that is why it was tested. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now without doubt. You were called. The hidden training of the unusual path. Chosen one, return again to the origin of this moment and steady your spirit. This is a message from God, not a theory, not a comfort story, and not something created to explain away pain. You are not imagining what you endured. You were called, and the evidence is written into the very struggles you tried to survive. Spiritual awakening is not an event that happens once and then ends. It is a process that unfolds through pressure, silence, waiting, and repetition until the soul finally sees what the mind could not accept before. God's message is rarely loud in the beginning. It is encoded. It hides inside hardship, inside unanswered prayers, inside seasons where nothing seems to move. While others were rewarded quickly, you were paused. While others advanced publicly, you were trained privately. This was not delay without meaning. This was instruction without applause. The chosen one is not awakened by ease, but by friction that sharpens perception and stillness that strengthens discernment. Divine calling develops abilities that cannot be taught in normal environments. Intuition is born when external guidance disappears. Discipline forms when motivation runs dry. Perception sharpens when illusions fall apart. These are not traits you inherit. They are traits you earn by surviving spaces where comfort is removed and truth is unavoidable. The unusual path was never meant to reward you early. It was meant to prepare you deeply. That is why your soul always felt older than your age. You noticed patterns others ignored. You questioned systems others trusted. You sensed consequences before they arrived. This was not negativity. This was awareness. Chosen ones are trained to see beneath surfaces because their calling requires clarity in moments where confusion dominates. Shallow ambition never satisfied you because your spirit recognized its emptiness long before success exposed it. Divine design is slow, but it is exact. Speed produces results. Precision produces authority. Your life was shaped for depth, not haste. While others rushed forward, you were restrained. While others celebrated milestones, you were stripped of attachment. This is not favoritism. This is assignment. What you carry cannot be entrusted to someone formed too quickly or validated too early. There were seasons when confusion felt unbearable, moments when self-doubt questioned whether you had misunderstood everything, times when feeling behind became a quiet source of shame. But purpose alignment is not measured by timelines. It is measured by readiness. God does not release weight to vessels that have not been reinforced. Every silent season reinforced you. Every delay thickened your roots. Every lonely stretch strengthened your spine. The war you sensed during these seasons was real. Resistance always intensifies around preparation. You were not fighting circumstances alone. You were contending with pressure meant to test whether your light would dim or mature. Many would have numbed themselves. Many would have settled. Many would have chosen comfort over calling. But you stayed aware, even when it hurt. That awareness is proof of divine calling active within you. The unusual path trained you to listen beyond noise. It taught you patience when urgency screamed. It taught you restraint when reaction felt easier. It taught you humility without erasing your authority. These lessons do not come from success. They come from survival with awareness intact. The chosen one is not defined by what they escape, but by what they endure without losing themselves. Look at what you survived without becoming bitter. Look at what you carried without being seen. Look at how many times you were emptied and still chose integrity. These are not accidents. These are credentials. Your path was designed for endurance and insight, not ease. What would have broken others refined you because your structure was reinforced for this level of pressure. Circle back now and anchor this truth again. This is a message from God. You are not imagining your depth. You are not exaggerating your experiences. You were called, and the hidden training you endured was necessary because your light is necessary. The war is real, but so is your authority. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now without question. You were called. Recognizing your divine calling in retrospect. Chosen one. Come back to the beginning of this moment and allow yourself to see clearly now. This is a message from God, and clarity only arrives when spiritual awakening has already begun. Before awakening, events feel random. After awakening, patterns reveal themselves with undeniable precision. You are not meant to look back with regret anymore. You are meant to look back with understanding. What once felt chaotic now becomes evidence. What once felt unfair now becomes instruction. Divine calling always makes sense in retrospect, never in advance. When awakening begins, vision changes. You stop asking why everything fell apart and start noticing how often it had to. Repeated endings were not signs of instability, they were signs of refusal. Sudden shifts were not disruptions, they were corrections. Internal restlessness was not dissatisfaction, it was alignment pushing against limitation. And those quiet moments of deep knowing, the ones you dismissed or delayed acting on, were God's message whispering direction before language caught up. The chosen one is marked by redirection, not stagnation. Whenever you stayed somewhere too long, pressure increased. Whenever you tried to settle for less than truth, restlessness returned. Whenever you compromised your integrity for stability, collapse followed. These were not punishments, these were course corrections. Divine calling does not allow prolonged misalignment. It interrupts before damage becomes permanent. Purpose alignment reveals itself through refinement, not accumulation. Every detour removed something that would have weighed you down later. Every delay stripped false confidence. Every failure dismantled borrowed identity. You were not losing time. You were losing illusions. Stop calling those years wasted. They were not empty. They were active construction beneath the surface, building depth you could not yet see. There is grief attached to this realization. Grief for the years you thought were lost. Grief for the version of life you imagined might have existed if things had gone smoothly. Allow that grief without letting it rewrite truth. Those years were not stolen. They were invested internally. While others were building outwardly, you were being reinforced inwardly. Divine design builds foundation before expansion, always. The unusual path appears fragmented when viewed through human expectation. Society measures progress through visibility, milestones, and applause. Divine calling measures progress through alignment, readiness, and integrity. When you view your past through divine design instead of comparison, cohesion appears. Every ending protected your assignment. Every isolation sharpened your discernment. Every reset strengthened your authority. Recognition itself is activation. The moment you can trace the pattern, you have outgrown the confusion. Awareness signals readiness. God does not reveal design prematurely. Revelation arrives when responsibility can be carried. If you can see now how nothing was random, it means you are entering a new phase of alignment. Preparation is giving way to positioning. The war you sensed before makes sense now. Resistance always intensifies when light matures. Your light survived misunderstanding, delay, and pressure because it was meant to. It did not flicker because it was reinforced. This is why you are still here, still aware, still listening. You were called, and recognition proves the call is active. Circle back once more and anchor this truth deeply. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the pattern. You are not exaggerating your experiences. You were called, and your past was training, not punishment. The war is real, but so is your authority. Your light is necessary. And now you know why. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now with certainty. You were called. Stepping fully into your divine assignment. Chosen one, pause here and ground yourself again in the truth that has carried this entire message. This is a message from God. Not imagination, not emotional suggestion, not coincidence. You were called, and now you are standing at the edge of responsibility. Recognition was never the destination. Readiness is. Many awaken, but few accept what awakening demands. This is where your path now leads, and this is why everything before this moment had to happen exactly as it did. There comes a stage in every divine calling where preparation ends and participation begins. This stage is quiet, serious, and deeply internal. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It arrives as conviction. You feel it as an inner shift, where excuses no longer satisfy and waiting no longer feels holy. The chosen one reaches a point where delay becomes disobedience and comfort becomes compromise. This is not pressure from the world. This is alignment calling you forward. Stepping into your assignment does not mean your life suddenly becomes public or dramatic. It means your decisions become intentional. You stop moving out of fear and start moving out of clarity. Spiritual awakening matures here. It stops being about understanding your past and starts being about stewarding your present. Divine calling asks a new question now, not who hurt you, but who needs what you carry. Your light was never meant to be hidden forever. It was protected until it could stand without burning you or others. Now that light must be placed deliberately, not everywhere, not for everyone. The chosen one learns discernment at this stage. You are not sent to convince. You are sent to embody. Your presence becomes the message long before your words do. This is why boundaries suddenly matter more. Energy becomes sacred. Time becomes intentional. You no longer explain yourself to be understood. You move in alignment and let clarity follow. Divine design activates authority quietly. You feel less need to prove and more responsibility to preserve. This is maturity, not withdrawal. The war does not disappear here. It changes form. Resistance becomes subtle. Distraction becomes attractive. Comfort becomes tempting. These are not punishments. They are tests of stewardship. What you carry now has weight, and weight attracts interference. The chosen one does not fight this war with force. You fight it with discipline, truth, and consistency. You may notice that people respond differently to you now. Some are drawn without knowing why. Others feel threatened without reason. This is not your responsibility to manage. Light reveals alignment and misalignment automatically. Your task is not to adjust your light, it is to keep it pure. Divine calling does not demand perfection. It demands integrity. You will still learn. You will still adjust. But you will no longer pretend you do not know what you know. That season is over. Spiritual awakening reaches completion when denial ends. You do not need more confirmation. You are the confirmation. Purpose alignment now becomes action. Not rushed action, grounded action. Small decisions made with clarity outweigh dramatic gestures made with fear. God's message continues through obedience, not emotion. The chosen one learns to trust quiet instruction over loud urgency. There will be moments when you miss who you were before responsibility settled in. That does not mean you are off path. It means you are human. Growth always includes grief for old versions of self. Honor them without returning to them. They carried you here. They are not meant to carry you forward. Everything you survived trained you for this phase. The isolation taught you self-leadership. The confusion taught you discernment. The delay taught you patience. The pain taught you compassion without weakness. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was excessive. Nothing needs to be repeated. Now you move differently. You speak less and mean more. You choose depth over noise. You trust alignment over urgency. This is what it means to walk as the chosen one, without ego and without apology. Circle back again and seal this truth. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift you feel. You were called, and now you are being positioned. The war is real, but you are no longer unprepared. Your light is necessary, and it is finally steady. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, not as hope, but as truth. You were called. Conclusion, chosen one. Return one final time to the truth that opened this entire message and let it settle fully. This is a message from God. Nothing you have heard was accidental, and nothing you have lived was misplaced. Your life did not fail to follow a normal path. It followed a divine one with exact precision. What once felt like disorder was direction. What once felt like loss was alignment. You were shaped differently because you are sent differently, and that difference was never meant to be hidden or corrected. Spiritual awakening does not bring peace because life suddenly becomes easy. It brings peace because confusion dissolves. You no longer have to wrestle with the question of what went wrong. You can finally see what was going right beneath the surface the entire time. Divine calling is not about being special. It is about being responsible. It is about carrying awareness, restraint, and truth in a world that often avoids them. Ego seeks recognition. Calling accepts assignment. You are no longer required to seek normal validation. Approval was never your fuel. Applause was never your confirmation. You are invited now to walk forward in purpose alignment with quiet confidence and internal authority. God's message does not end with recognition. It continues through obedience, discernment, and courage. Awareness brings accountability. Now that you see, you are responsible for how you move. The war you sensed was not meant to scare you. It was meant to prepare you. Resistance exists because your light matters. You were tested because what you carry cannot be fragile. You were delayed because timing mattered more than speed. Everything you endured refined your ability to stand without losing compassion, to speak without bitterness, and to lead without domination. These are not common traits. They are cultivated ones. Divine design never rushes what must last. You are exactly where you are meant to be, not because the path was smooth, but because it was intentional. The clarity you feel now is earned. It replaces the confusion that once drained you. It steadies the urgency that once overwhelmed you. You do not need to chase alignment anymore. You are standing inside it. If you feel aligned with this truth, if something in you has finally exhaled, comment 777 as a sign of agreement and recognition. Let it be a marker, not for others, but for yourself, that you heard what was meant for you. And as we end, hear this with certainty and calm strength. This is a message from God. You are not imagining your depth. You are not exaggerating your journey. You were called. The war is real, but so is your authority. Your light is necessary, and it has survived everything it needed to survive. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, without fear and without doubt. You were called.